So, if you're trying to use save files to record long games like me, you should probably know that sometimes the autosaves, no matter where they occur, actually skip ahead past certain cutscenes. So, like this entire scene with the Turks, you saw the save indicator up at the top corner of the screen just now. Well, the save actually saves after this cutscene. So if you load that autosave, you don't get this scene with the Turks. So all of this is a long and convoluted way of saying I had to download a cutscene video off YouTube to fill in this cutscene in my footage. Thank you, random YouTube user whose username I forgot to note down.
Well, I'm pretty sure they own the copyright of this scene anyway, so you won't get any into legal trouble at all.
But anyway, it's a really bad scene to end up missing because you decided to stop when you saw the saving icon up in the corner, because this is a completely new scene that develops the Turks a little further. You see,
Sen does his taxes.
Yeah, you see, in the original game, the Turks were actually out and about in Shinra Tower looking for Avalanche, but right now, obviously, that's not the case, because Reno and Rude are a bit roughed up after the Sector 7 incident, because that fight went a little worse for them than it did in the original timeline. So instead, this time, Cloud passes the fuck out because of Genova fuckery. And in order to, get him somewhere safe, they just retreat to Aerith's quarters.
You okay?
It's interesting that Aerith has quarters in this timeline, because in the original game, she just kind of had a cell.
I'm sorry, the area rug on the floor. You could try a little harder. I know the aesthetic is very cold. But get like three or four more of those, please. If we're gonna try to make the room a little more homelier.
I like the overall look of the place, where it's this cold, sterile, oppressive room. But because Aerith and her mother lived in here for so long, they did their best to try and make it livable. There's a cheap sofa in the corner. You think Shinra would be able to afford,
which Barret immediately claims. Fucking love that detail.
And then
we made Cloud sit on every bench in the game. It's about time Barret got to sit down on something.
Yeah, I know. This is my safe couch.
There's some cardboard boxes in the corner with some random belongings in them. There's drawings on the wall with chalk from when Aerith was a kid. And no one's actually cleaned them up at all in all the years since.
I was gonna say they just left that there for over 10 years or however long it was between.
Apparently.
It is a more optimistic sort of spin on the prison scene in Shinra HQ. Again, another what?
In the prison scene, they just sort of threw her in a cell.
They threw everybody in a cell.
Yeah, but she was already in the cell.
Yeah.
I guess they did.
It was cold. There was no area rug. There was no couch.
Yeah, because the cells were right next to Hojo's lab anyway. So they didn't have a reason to try and put her anywhere else. But we're technically in a location that may or may not have existed in the original game, but certainly does now. This place is called the Drum, and it is effectively... Oh wait, are we even actually in the Drum right now, or do we need to? No, we need to take an elevator to get down there. I'm getting ahead of myself.
All right, so this is the room above the Drum.
It's the drumsticks. Yes.
The symbols.
You know what?
I thought you were talking about drumsticks like fucking lunch.
Ice cream?
No, chicken drumsticks.
Oh, now that you brought up drumsticks, I'm just picturing in my head a version of the bottle ship from Other M, except it's designed to look like a drumstick.
You just gotta turn the bottle ship upside down.
The 10-piece bucket. The 10-piece bucket meal.
This sounds like a Mad Magazine version of Metroid Other M, where the space station, instead of being a baby's bottle, is a KFC drumstick. And
the SOS is a chicken bucket.
So you know how like the Metroids have the 3 little like things inside their brain? So it's like that, only instead of being circular, they're shaped like actual drumsticks.
Yeah. Or a little like a chicken nugget.
I'm just trying to picture what this hypothetical parody version of the bottle ship would be, what it would do in its universe, and my only thought is they're cloning the wildlife of planet Zebes for use in fast food production, like really expensive luxury fast food.
Samus, you are now authorized to use the gravy coating.
Finally.
Okay, let's...
Why did it make a cocking noise? Cock, I get it. Chicken.
What level did you generally end Final Fantasy VII OG at? It was like 60-ish, right?
Nah, I would say late 40s.
Late 40s? Okay. For some reason, I thought you ended in like the 60s.
I mean, when I first played, they're probably closer to 60.
Yeah, depending on how much you do. I generally land closer to 60 when I'm just going through. And if I'm being really thorough, I actually do get pretty close to 90. But
yeah, because I know that...
Jesus Christ.
Because I know that different RPGs tend to have different things for that. Like, most of the older Dragon Quests, you end 30 to 40. Pokemon, you're generally like 50 to 60 by the time you hit the Elite Four. Final Fantasy is generally more spread out with that because each game is so different.
Bizarre thing about the end of the original Final Fantasy VII is that the final boss was made harder based on the number of characters who reached 99, but it was only made harder in the sense that if you were at a high enough level, you'd get 2 groups or 3 groups during the Bizarro Sephiroth boss, and if you had more characters at level 99, Sephiroth's HP would go up, but only his HP. So
there were a couple of things that determined Sephiroth's stats by that. Characters at level 99, whether you used Knights of the Round on Genova.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
I think your material levels has something to do with it too.
Wait,
I
so
could be wrong
you
on
could
that
have
one,
Knights of the Round, and it wouldn't be harder if you just didn't use it during one specific boss fight?
It'd be easier if you didn't use it.
Yeah, if you just yeet Genova Synthesis out of the stratosphere with Knights of the Round, the final boss gets harder in response, but not harder enough to actually be challenging. So I'm not really sure what they were trying to accomplish there.
Well, the original Final Fantasy VII really only has a couple of parts that are hard, and those parts are more just you don't know what's going on. Like, the only part I remember giving me trouble was the boss fight before you get Vincent.
I know that, but at the same time, if you're going to implement dynamic difficulty scaling, the scaling should scale to a point where it actually is challenging under certain circumstances.
All right, let's put it this way. At its lowest, say for Sephiroth, final boss of the game can start at 55,000 HP. That's at his absolute lowest. Like, you have to be doing a low-level game in order to do that. At his max, he has 400,000 HP, which is still less than half of the weapons.
That's still 8
but his
times the amount that he normally has. You know.
Yeah, but if you're doing stuff that will get him up that high, you're pretty over leveled anyway.
You're likely overpowered anyway, and you likely already beat the weapon, so it's still not really a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I'm okay with games where like the final boss isn't the hardest boss in the game. You know, like that's usually all right with me. It's just so weird because the game never tells you any of this. You know, like I don't know how anybody figured out that using Knights of the Round on what's-its-face on Genova
Synthesis, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it did take us 20 years to figure out that one quest in 9 where he goes at the end of the game and then run all the way back.
Well, I mean, like, they have a scaling response for using Knights of the Round in one of the earlier phases of the final boss, but, like, they don't scale it high enough that it can survive Knights of the Round anyway. So, like, it seems pointless at that point. And that's just
the
weird.
idea is sound.
The idea is
though.
sound.
Like,
it's just weird.
Oh, it's a cool idea. I just wish that they actually told you it existed. You know, that would be neat.
It's just weird that they implemented this scaling and then didn't use that scaling to scale the boss that in a way that would make it worth scaling at all. So it's like it's odd, and it's not as if there aren't JRPGs that do have like final bosses that are appropriate to the upper levels of their particular level range. Like I would not classify Persona 5 as a particularly hard game, but like if you're in the 80s by the end of the game, the boss's stats are appropriate to that level. And in Royal, you can get all the way up to level 99 by the end of the arc after the original final boss, and you'll still have a fairly hardish time with the final boss there. That's just how the game is designed to scale. Final Fantasy has always had, well, not always, but in all the games that people care about, they have always had levels that go up to 99 and final bosses that become obsolete at level 60. So it's just weird.
It gets a little weird with 8, though.
8 is the oddball exception, but like I wouldn't say being level 99 in 8 really makes the final boss any harder either, because like,
well, is the cap in 8 99 or 100?
It's 108, which is a problem because 8 has level 5 death. And so like if you go to level 100, you have to put death junctioning on everyone's status junction, because like otherwise you're eternally vulnerable to it.
So just better than 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like and you know what, the super boss uses level 5 death too. Omega Weapon uses it. So you have to have the death junctioning on everyone at that point. I think the final boss might use it too, but I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've played that far into the game. Okay. So we had
our exposition dump.
Yeah,
pretty much. And before the end of the starts, I know we only get bits and pieces of it throughout the rest of the game, though. The chemistry between Red 13 and Barret is phenomenal, and I hope there's more of it in the second episode.
We haven't even
Avalanche buddies.
We haven't even seen the best bit where Barret holds out his hand as if asking the dog to shake, and Red 13 just looks at him, then turns around and swats his hand with his tail. But like, okay, this is the scene where everything officially goes off the rails, because Aerith and Red 13 essentially tell the rest of the party what the Whispers are, and Aerith is coming really, really close to basically revealing whatever it is she knows, but the Whispers are getting on her ass about it. And apparently, like, something happens to her whenever they actually touch her. It's not exactly clear what.
It's okay.
I think it's them like forcibly trying to like maybe alter her mind or something like that to get her back on the beaten pathway.
I mean, they're not really trying all that hard, considering that like they could just like keep on harassing her until either she stops or I don't know. Well, they can't really kill her, I guess, because like she's supposed to be there, but.
Well, the way I always look at it is because like, maybe I'm just taking this a little too literally, but when she comments on that, whenever time they approach, I lose a part of myself, and I always took that as maybe they're taking away a memory of a new pathway that she's taken in this alternate continuity, and again, it's them trying their damnedest to get her back on the pathway she's supposed to be on. That's the way I took that line.
Anyway, Wedge is here. Hi, Wedge.
Yeah, this is different. Hey, Wedge.
Hey, you're alive. Whispers coming
again.
Nope.
I particularly like his bit in this scene because when he's on camera, he looks like absolutely fine. But the moment the camera feed cuts out, the game cuts to where he is, and he's just.
He's kind of on his last legs.
Yeah, he's in pain and just hiding it. So he really, really shouldn't be here, but he went out of his way to help out. Presumably because he heard what the group was up to from Elmira.
Well, his role is that because he lived, he was able to contact the main Avalanche group and convince them to start their attack.
Yeah. Which actually winds up working in our group's favor, because while Shinra and the Turks are dealing with main Avalanche, we're able to deal with Hojo's laboratory basically unmolested by the rest of Shinra's military.
Just Hojo, though.
Which is good, because the drum is a handful and a half on its own, and it would have been a nightmare having a bunch of Shinra soldiers chasing after us the entire time. Like how, the moment you have access to all 4 party members, the game just dumps Tifa and Aerith into your party.
That's right, Cloud. Let's stick with the ladies. But beware of the random battles.
The only times that you can actually choose between all 4 party members are when you're doing certain VR missions. And when you go back down into the drum after completing it, you'll be prompted to leave one party member behind to hold the elevator. But that really only exists as an opportunity to go back and get treasures you missed, and to grind a little if you have the patience for that. Although, in this particular game, I wouldn't recommend bothering.
You're going to be close to max level by the time you get to the end of the game anyway, so what difference does it make?
Yeah. And the game does have a New Game Plus, so you can leave your AP grinding for a second playthrough.
What's max in this game?
50.
50?
Yeah,
Okay.
this game goes up to 50, which probably means part 2 and 3 are going to go up to
Like 75 and 100.
75 and 99,
75 and
respectively.
99, probably, yeah.
Assuming it's 3 parts. Again, I'm adamant that it's going to be 3. You know,
It's-
the original was 3 discs.
It's one
Well,
of those things
disc
where it's
3
rare to
was
do
like
4 parts.
2 hours, though. It's one dungeon.
Yeah, but it's more like just by principle than numbers. That's more what I'm getting
We
at.
have the opening in Midgar that's been covered by this game, but the rest of the game is the majority of the original runtime. So, the middle portion of the game was like either Aerith's death would have been the midpoint that you would cut off a part with, or more appropriately in my eyes, the Northern Crater. I think part 2 is going to end at the Northern Crater, with that whole cliffhanger and another Genova boss, and
I don't even know how the hell the Northern Crater stuff would even tie into this new continuity.
well, Sephiroth
to
is
see.
still there.
Sephiroth's here now.
No, Sephiroth's been...
I mean, there still has to be this timeline Sephiroth somewhere
well,
doing stuff.
He's
the
already
only
here.
Sephiroth we ever see is the one that's using clones to project himself. So physically, he's still trapped in crystal at the Northern Crater.
I don't think that is a Genova clone we're fighting at the end of this game.
Wait, so at the end of this game, we
no,
don't... you see, this is why this shit's dumb. Okay.
More so, my point is, we know the Sephiroth we're interacting with knows everything.
Yes.
So he's from either original timeline or a different timeline, what have you.
Well,
This timeline, Sephiroth still has to be around here somewhere, unless
There doesn't
Sephiroth
have-
kills him for whatever.
there doesn't have
so.
to be 2 distinct Sephiroths. It could just be the same as Aerith, where it's the same character, but they know things they shouldn't.
Nice job.
But, like...
Potentially, I feel that's.
Red 13's an asshole.
Well, he just met them 5 minutes ago.
He's an angsty teenager.
He is. He really is. Okay, so, I just don't... I don't think it's... Thinking about it, I don't think we need to overcomplicate this by saying there are 2 Sephiroths or anything. Because we've already got Sephiroth running around in clone form all over the goddamn
There's actually
place.
7.
But...
Yeah, the original timeline Sephiroth,
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts
I would-
Sephiroth, the city is Sephiroth, Kingdom Hearts 2 Sephiroth,
I'd be more than one to put my foot in my mouth if I'm wrong,
Super
but
Smash Brothers.
It's okay.
you can't convince
It's okay,
me
John.
that you can't convince me that the Sephiroth we fight at the end of this game is just a clone. No, I think it's the legitimate article.
It's okay, John. You don't have to worry about being right or wrong, because by the time that the next game comes out, it'll be 10 years from now, and nobody will remember what you said about it.
Oh, you say that.
I do say that.
I have higher hopes it won't take as long to get part 2, considering Nomura's not completely in charge of it.
People hold on to things for a very long time, Ted. Well, just a couple of days ago, at the time of this recording, I had someone comment that one of their favorite BrainScratch moments was when you were when you impromptu show off your Audacity screen in our Pokemon Yellow commentary.
Jesus.
Do you remember the Pokemon Yellow commentary? It was like 30,000 years ago.
I was 17 years old.
But, yeah, somebody commented that someone said as early as a couple of days ago. Still one of their favorite moments, which means people hold on to shit for a very, very, very long time.
One thing that I don't get about Sephiroth is the significance of the one-winged angel thing, which definitely wasn't important in the original game.
No, not at all.
It's just because it's become iconography that's associated with him.
Right.
So it's them going, ooh, Sephiroth's here. Ooh, Sephiroth. And it's...
The first time we saw Sephiroth with one wing was in fucking Kingdom Hearts.
Do we want to count safe for Sephiroth?
No, because he has like 6 wings, 7 wings even.
No, but he has one wing on his arm, Lewis, and it's black.
Yeah, it's because it's the angel-looking wing, which is the most striking part of that design. You know?
Yeah, but my point is, even in the part of the original game with the music called One Winged Angel, he has very clearly more than one wing. But
I think if the thing about it is that if
I hope someone got fired for that one.
If that song was named anything else, I think he probably wouldn't have had just one wing in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. You know? But in Kingdom Hearts, it wasn't just Sephiroth who had one wing. Cloud also had the one demon wing too, which is weird as fuck. And Kingdom Hearts...
Speak of the fallen angel and he shall appear.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts promptly forgets that they used that design the moment the second game starts, and just has Cloud with a bunch of bandages on his sword for no reason. Okay. So for a moment, and this camera cut reinforces this, you're left to think that Sephiroth was just a hallucination. But... now they can see him too. Between one cut and the next, Sephiroth physically appeared here.
The boogeyman.
So, yeah, it's a little bit.
He's so hot.
A little bit creepy.
Is it really you?
From this point on, the story is pretty much 99.9% original material. We are going to hit a few of the same beats that the original game hit after this point, but only in a few places, like the fight with Rufus or the motorcycle chase. Most of the scenes from here on are completely new.
I'm acting.
One thing that I don't get here is that Cloud is clutching his arm. Is that the same arm that was...
Liquid!
What? Whoa, hold on. You don't just get to say embrace me like that. No. No, wrong.
What, you never say the same thing to your cat?
A touching reunion.
Ah, word.
Yeah, Lewis, so getting back to what you were saying earlier, I think it is the same arm where he gets his geostorm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was pretty sure it was the arm with the pauldron on it that got infected. So, interesting that they had him clutching his arm there. Might be a connection.
So I'm going to need you guys to remind me of some stuff, because, again, it's been a very long time since I played the original game. I don't remember Sephiroth really giving that much of a shit about Cloud. Like, obviously,
in the original game, no, he does
not.
In
the original game, it seemed very much like Sephiroth didn't know who Cloud was until they met later on and had a chance to talk. But
again, since Sephiroth knows what's going on, Cloud's now much more important to him because Cloud's the guy who stops him.
Yeah,
I suppose that makes sense.
It makes sense in the original game that Sephiroth didn't know who Cloud was, because I'm pretty sure Cloud was just some nobody soldier he didn't pay attention to until he
didn't.
Yeah, until he happened to get the better of him in a struggle. But
okay, because I mean, I liked that part of the original game because it, for a couple of reasons. One, it really contrasts what Cloud thinks of himself and then what he actually is. Because again, like, Cloud thinks, "Oh, I'm soldier first class, I'm hot shit," and then you find out that no, not only are you not hot shit, the main villain who you are like terrified of and whatnot doesn't even like know who you are, which I don't know, I just think that's a really cool dynamic for...
I forget what show it is, but it's the two guys in the elevator. It's like, I feel bad for you, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple, like, for me it was Tuesday kind of moment, but I always thought that it worked because it really highlighted how powerless Cloud felt, which made the scene later in the game with Tifa doing telepathy therapy. Like, that's part of what made that scene really matter, because it made Cloud's breakdown feel more important.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I've already established that I am just not a fan of how early they brought Sephiroth into this game in the first place, but like, I don't know.
We say
at the same time, that is kind of the entire point.
Yeah.
We say early, but we're 40 hours in. So
I mean, granted, yes, that's true, but in context of the entire Final Fantasy story, like, we only at this point in the original game, if we're talking about continuity wise, we only just learn who Sephiroth is.
Yeah, at this point in the story, it's pretty important that you get through your head that even though the game is called Remake, the fact of the matter is we're essentially playing a sequel story.
Yeah.
Like...
Well, no, we're remaking the continuity.
It's kind of like... This is a weird comparison to draw, but it's kind of like the modern Star Trek movies. Actually...
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, except this is done better than those movies.
I mean, it's still got the J.J. Abrams mystery box thing going on.
I mean, I mean, unlike the Star Trek movies, I can believe that Captain Kirk is Captain Kirk here.
Curse Pine is... I mean, he's arrogant enough to be Kirk, but that's really the only similarity.
Well, you know, to say with the original Kirk from the original show, could be an arrogant, pompous ass of what he needed to be, but his whole shtick was he wanted to explore the galaxy.
Yeah,
that's what he wanted to do. That was his driving force. Remake Kirk is just, I want to show how cool I am. It's like, fuck you.
Apparently, by the time you got to like movie 4 for the remakes, they were decent, but
I stopped after 1.
I know that's the point.
I mean, I enjoyed the first.
Star Trek remake movie is a decent sci-fi action movie. It's not a good Star Trek movie. That's the thing.
It kind of feels like J.J. Abrams just wanted to make Star Wars, to be honest.
Well, he did. It's called Star Trek.
The whole visual style does fit a lot better when you get to Force Awakens, but in any case...
Okay, so I understand that Red 13 is a guest character, but looking at... I don't remember... This part's completely different, so Cloud and Red 13 weren't really... Well, I guess you could team them up depending on how you split the parties in the original game, but like they very purposefully made this area to be a playground to test out Red 13's new skills, and then he's just a guest character anyway.
Well,
so, I don't know.
Red 13 sort of gets traded off between the two parties in this area because he's essentially a key item. But both groups are just... all right. We'll talk more about the drum in detail next part because we've got like a minute left in this part. But this entire sequence is an entirely new area, and we're going to be split between two parties for the duration of it. One party is the boys, the other party is the girls. Red 13 is kind of the third wheel, no matter who he's with.